What is up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Johnny Lynum, JohnnyLynum.com. I wanted to shoot a quick video. I'm on the road today out in Dallas, Texas for a due diligence trip with, I guess I can say the group. I won't say the group right now. Out here for a due diligence trip for a new fund that's launching. And I think they're raising about 150 million or so on the road. But I wanted to kind of give you guys a glimpse behind the scenes now that I'm retired, kind of out here on the road and going through my daily news. I figured I might as well record myself going through my daily news update and just kind of share that with you guys and kind of give you a glimpse of what I'm seeing in the news and give you my perspective on everything. Of course, the shutdown. One of the things that I was reading when I was going through and understanding what was happening, kind of catching up in the space, is the government shutdown. One of the things that unrealized that is permeating across the entire economy. I think we are just now seeing a lot of the impacts, of course, directly impacting uh, government workers and employees, but also other things. And so, one of the things on the real estate side, because always getting back to the money and understanding how it's going to impact it, is on the flood zone side of it. And so, right now, it's impacting home sales in flood prone areas because guess what? The U.S. Government that they're providing the national flood insurance program. And so with that, those people aren't working. And so guess what? If you don't have a flood insurance program, a lender's not going to let you close on the property. And so I think one of the big things is understanding how the insurance on that side is a kind of a unforeseen instance and really going through. And I think when you look at how you understand it, so if you're under contract and you're in a flood prone area, you need to think about that. You may not be able to close on time as you're going through and doing your due diligence. But at the same time, lenders may start pulling back. I can remember when I bought my first apartment complex, I was in Panama City and COVID kicked off. Man, you talking about someone sweating bullets. I go under contract, $1 million property, and 2 weeks later, the country shuts down for COVID. But my lender was right there going through it. So you want to make sure you communicate with your lender, understand their process. Do they have a workaround? Are they allowing you to go get other insurance outside of the National Flood Insurance Program? But understand that. And guess what? Your insurance premiums could be a little bit higher, which is going to, of course, affect your cash flow. You may need to mitigate. Looking at flood proofing, alternative insurance, you may be able to get a variance. That was one of the things I ran into this year on a portfolio that I have in Alabama, where we went in and two of the 14 buildings, excuse me, so it was 84, the four complexes. So two of the 10 buildings were below flood zone. And so we had to require to get flood insurance on two of the 10 buildings. And so with that, I got the surveyor to go back out. And the surveyor said, actually, when they built these, they were built in the 90s, that the elevation on the building would qualify to get exempted from the flood zone. And so that's something you have to pay extra. You probably can't do it in that transaction, but that's something to definitely take a look at. And then just understanding delays in closing or increased contingency risk. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're evaluating when you're going under contract. This is something that probably no one really thought about, but it's another casualty of the government shutdown and everything that's happening. In other news that I saw this morning, kind of going through my process, looking at everything, the U.S. Supreme Court, they declined to hear the antitrust case from Zillow. And so this is a big one. I think a big win for Zillow, clearly, but it didn't go to the Supreme Court. They declined to hear the case. And I think the big thing is that we're seeing a lot of the regulation kind of scale back. And that's one of the things that you can't take into account, but it's always is looming in the background is that regulatory risk that you have to take into account with your investments, whether it's green energy. And of course, we know they're scaling back tax credits and a lot of the things in regards to green energy right now. So this is a big win for NAR, the National Association of Realtors, and Zillow, because the last year has really shaken up how they've approached listings, compensation for listings on the buyer side, seller side. So I think this is one of the things that we definitely have to take a look at. And if you're investing or looking at syndications, then you got to look at the property fundamentals, but you also got to look at some of the legislation lists because risk and regulatory risk because they're right there, and there are a lot of changes in the laws right now. I think from a perspective when you look at legislation, they're more free flowing capitalism, not necessarily looking for more regulation. So for investors and asset owners, that is a good thing. But even little subtle shifts like this can cause a drastic implication in your portfolio. Another big one on the real estate side, if you look at Florida with the condo that collapsed a few years ago and the impact that it had on the industry with now having mandatory assessments for I think condo buildings that were over like 3 or 4 stories and that have, I think there was a certain age. I think anything over an age of like 25 or 30. But now all of those condos magically now have to get assessed, and they have to go through and do remediation for whatever deficiencies come up from those assessments. So it's a really big deal when you look at the implications that the laws and the legislative branch can bring onto your property and on your investments, because now you have a lot of condos that people can't even give away. Like you have a lot of baby boomers and retirees that were buying these Florida condos, but now they have multi-$100,000 assessments that they have to pay, because guess what? The laws and rules change, and now these homeowner associations, they have to go in and remediate all these deficiencies. Because the last thing you want to do is, if you're someone that's in a public figure, or in the government, you want to have buildings collapsing, 20-story condos collapsing for negligence. And when you have engineering assessments with work that had to be done, and they just completely blowed it off and said they didn't have the money. And so that's something to look at the Supreme Court. And then the last one is a big, huge win for commercial real estate. And I think this one is signaling that we may have bottomed out. So SL Green Realty Corp, they acquired New York City's Park Avenue Tower for a whopping $730 million. So that building, the article, it talks about how the building was leased up to 95%. And I think right now they're saying that this is signaling investor confidence is returning to the office sector. And I think really what you're seeing, that a lot of the flee is fleeing up to A class, that the prime real estate, when it comes to office sector, a lot of people are moving up to the prime location and the newest buildings. And so that's something that you're going to be continuing to look at. And so as the real estate market on the commercial side starts to turn around, we're seeing the Federal Reserve that they're driving down interest rates. They're trying to maintain a certain level of unemployment, and they're seeing the cracks in the economy right now. And so with these interest rates coming down over the next couple of Fed meetings and going into 2026, I think we're going to see more and more transactions start to happen. And but the thing that you have to look at is understanding what does this mean to you as an investor. And so with this that you're seeing a lot of dry powder, a lot of money that's been sitting on the sideline for the last few years in a high interest rate environment, that you're starting to see deals coming out. You're starting to see the big actors like the Black Rocks and the Bridgestones, that they're making deals happening. They're buying real estate. You're still seeing the build for rent, DR Horton, Lennar. You're still building single family homes. And the thing is that you have to understand, what does this mean to you and your portfolio? How can you get exposure? When we start talking about funds, with the company I'm here in Dallas that we're meeting with here in a couple of hours, and going through and understand that there are people out here, they're buying a lot of real estate. They're making moves, and whether it's in self storage, we got one fund that's coming up on their like 15th fund, and great track record, full cycle funds that are going through and they're buying Class A new construction real estate. That, guess what? Over the last couple of years, we know construction has came to like a 40-year low, that now they're buying new real estate. And as these units are absorbed, there's nothing going to be coming to the market in late 26, 27, 28. And we're going to see, guess what? Rents are going to appreciate and go up, because there are going to be limited assets, and there are going to be still a lot of demand right now. And especially as the rate environment that right now, affordability is at an all-time low. And so it's cheaper for most people to rent than it is to own. And so guess what? For us as landlords and investors in residential real estate, it's going to be a good day. So this is kind of my news breakdown. I just wanted to kind of share with you guys what I'm looking at today, give you my investor mindset when it comes to real estate, and just some of the news that we're looking at, the government shutdown. And you got to stay nimble. You got to stay on top of everything that matters to you guys. But drop down in the comments anything that you guys want me to review, any videos, any content that you would love to get my kind of military CEO perspective that I can give to you guys. And I'll see you on the next video. Let's go and let's make some equity happen together, y'all.